Right now, so what is knowledge building? Well, we have some people talking about knowledge building. It's a community. It's not a single person. No matter how smart, how genius you are, but you have to work in groups. And the learners are working continuously, not just for one night or 2 weeks, not the week before the examination. Okay, so I will explain why that's so important continuously from day one. Even though we know nothing about that, but you still have to work on it collaboratively, which develops the community prosperity. Now, what do they do, or what should we do? Thinking about questions. Synthesizing multiple perspectives. If you type note your ideas in the database, not just only reading, but you have to synthesize them. No matter how low level the responses are, can you take out something from those responses? Using each other's diverse knowledge and skills. Well, we have expertise here from different areas, definitely. And extending shared understanding. So working at the cutting edge, go beyond the textbook. Is it possible that we can help the students to go beyond the textbook? Which is a big challenge, I would say. Typically, if you are teaching public examination classes, easier for kindergarten, P1 to P3 or P4, so then when you reach P5 and 6, you have to submit those grades to the education bureau. Then that poses an obstacle or a challenge. Right, and eventually there's a product which does not belong to anyone but all of us, communal knowledge. So how can we put these abstract things into practice? Now, in order to do this, well, we need technology. Okay, of course, in the very beginning, I start with something very simple without technology in the classroom. We use the wall, we use the notice board to post the ideas. Otherwise, after discussion, everything will be gone. That's typical discussion setting in local schools. Okay, 5 minutes for discussion, and then you have presentation. No matter how, when the bell rings, everything will be gone. So we need technology. Technology helps us to record everything. And very important, what we type in the database becomes an object you work on. So this is very unique to knowledge building. Well, you should be very familiar with this version. If not, then it will be the basic mode. This is an enhanced mode. But anyway, each square here, little box here, contains an idea. So this comes from my students' work some time ago. But anyway, here you see the linkage and the flow from one question and it spread out and so on and so on. Right, now we need an environment which can entertain and handle individual differences. Very important. Okay, and try to maximize the interaction among students as well as students and teachers. So that highlights the importance of community and collaborative learning. So this is, you have to bear this in mind. Okay. Now, one of my approach in handling knowledge building is how to get the students talk, discuss. Now, one way is we look at, we have to focus on the curriculum design and the instructional design. Okay, those green books little book which tells you what to teach, and then how you put that, interpret the booklet into daily practice. So this is something that you take note of the ideas and key problems in your subject area. No matter you are teaching language, art, music, humanities subjects, or science, what is the key concept, the key problem or issue? And then try to connect these problem issues with each other. So the teacher has to do this, but you have to understand the curriculum. And then here's the question: where do I get these ideas and problems? Well, one way is the curriculum guide. No matter you come from international school or local school, you have curriculum guides for it. That could be a source that you can work on. Okay? So you can formulate 3 questions. Then you translate, interpret, and then you sequence the questions. Okay? Sometimes it's not necessary to start with one question. It could be a how. Now here's an example. Okay? On this side, here's the 4 questions listed in the curriculum guide. So I reinterpret it and change into 4 similar questions. For example, why do people still live in country-prone areas? Is there a choice rational? Is the choice rational? So I make it, can disaster be avoided? Okay, what do you know about tsunamis? Why do we have tsunamis and earthquakes? What is the relationship? And is it avoidable? So from the curriculum guide, I got 4 key questions to start with. Right now, so once you have this in mind, then you have to do 4 different things in the classroom. And the first one is you have to develop a knowledge-building community. The strategy. You start with the usual practice, small group discussions, ask the students to report, ask the students to think about questions to get more information. It depends on the atmosphere and the culture of that particular classroom. Okay? In some classrooms and some level you may go for 2 weeks, then you have this. Okay? But for the weaker ones you may need to spend more, and then you may need some other things to scaffold them. Okay? So this is one, just get them talk. Okay? To have the confidence to say something in front of the class or in the group or things like that. Then mind mapping, okay, concept mapping, and then reciprocal teaching is you ask the student to be a teacher, to teach a small group of people, and then the classmate will be a student, and it's turn to be teachers and students, teachers and students. So I will share a bit more about this. Right, in this example, so the jigsaw mapping, we have a huge topic. I chop it up into 4 different parts, and then I distribute the reading material and assign to different groups. Okay, let's say 4 groups. So each group only responsible for reading certain chapters or pages. And then the product is a concept map. And then once they have this map ready, then the expertise or the specialist group have to teach each other within the same group first to clarify the misconception or questions, so on and so forth. Okay, so they improve the mind map. Okay. And then I deconstruct them and reform a new group by picking an expertise from each of the 4 groups. So they bring their mind map or concept map and teach other groups. So that will be the jigsaw. Okay. Right, they teach. Now, reciprocal teaching. Every student goes through these 7 stages. The first one, teaching and questioning within the expert group, which I have explained to you just now. And then you summarize. Every time someone mention something, then the next student has to summarize. When you have read some notes in the database, if you have no time to write a new note, do a summary note of what you have read. Okay. One way. So this is how you do it in classroom, and you align with the online world. Think. And then teacher intervention. Okay, teacher may teach. You may have to spot some misconception and so on. So we still have teaching lecturing here. Sometimes ask you to listen, to type notes, but then you have the teacher's input here. And then you have the peer assessment. So they display their mind map, the group mind map, and then let people comment. Just like when you type a note in the database, everyone is assessing. And then students comment on the mind map, and then they brainstorm new ideas, reconstruct, improve. So if that happens in the database, in the knowledge forum, you comment, you reread, and you can type a new note later on. So every idea is improvable. But you must have someone to start with. So no matter how naive, simple, poor question, it doesn't matter. Just kick off people's interest. Okay? So I will share with you how you can handle the assignments in this module. Now, so that will be roughly, it may take 3 to 4 weeks because we're handling an A-level or a big topic. Okay, here shows you an example of the group mind map after the jigsaw activity. So this is their understanding of the big topic called desert vegetation. So this is equivalent to all the notes, the online notes in the database. Thanks. Right. Okay, now then, after doing this in the classroom, I move the students to the online world, introducing how to use knowledge forum, how to pose a note, or how to read a note, things like that. Now, you have different strategies. It all depends on you. I still keep this jigsaw view. That means we have three different views at the same time. Okay, set up at the same time. And then sometimes I pose the questions there for they to discuss. Sometimes I just let them generate their own questions. Okay, but of course that interact with your daily classroom teaching. The last 5 minutes, how would you end up your lessons and bring them and link them to the online world? That's important. Okay. If you let students generate the questions, the input is the last 5 minutes in your daily teaching. You want any particular lesson. And then we have rise above view. Well, when people work on a certain view for some time, then you can have some special, or what teachers say, good notes. Okay, good ideas. Then you have to pick it out, move to another view. Okay, and help them to work further, okay, beyond the first stage. So technology helps you. Okay, in knowledge form you can close the old view and then open a new view. Okay, writing rise above notes. Summary note is an example of it. Notes evaluation. Okay, I'll share with you. Well, so this is a jigsaw. Rich and poor is one topic in grade 9 geography. Ocean in trouble is another. And then saving our tropical rainforest is the third topic. So the whole year, from September to May, these are the 3 topics that I need to cover. and assign the students by class number. Say, okay, number 1 to 14, you go in this room. Okay, the other 2 go into this room. You work in this wheel for, let's say, 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, you read these chapters in advance even before my teaching, and then you pose some questions there. Now, the good thing is you have a pool of question resources there already. Okay, if you ask 40, a typical local classroom, you've got 40 students. Okay, if they are not smart, you ask them all 40 go to rich and poor and they post 40 notes. Well, I would say we can condense into 3 questions, roughly the same. But a waste of time in reading and instead. So this could be one way to handle the constraints that we have in our classroom. Right, so I only put something like this. Let's discuss the tropical rainforest in our planet. Then they generate. Okay, without the STEM question. Just a topic there, then you can brainstorm. What would you like to ask? Things like that. Okay, okay, rise above view, capture from the Chan database. They have discussed something here already. We talked about stars and then remove some of these ideas into a new view. Rise above. This is another example. When they talk about rich and poor, I come up with some people talking about is money the solution. So I take the note and put in a new view. Some students talk about the wealth gap, which is not a topic or an issue in the textbook, grade 9 textbook, no, too deep. And then who should look after the world? Rich or poor or both? So that shows you another example of rise above view. Okay, hope you will use this rise above note, which looks a little bit different with different functions. But anyway, this gives you an example of a rise above note. Is the student writes something here, and then you can draw a drag and drop a certain note from a database to illustrate what you talk about. For example, Chung Y said something about this, and then he elaborate a little bit further. And then different, okay, these yellow boxes are very important because it's writing prompts or thinking prompts. Help the students to think and to write and structure their ideas, organize their ideas. So now I show you this because you have to be evidence-based. Okay, so you have to read the article, the reading, capture the ideas to support. So this is a note maybe written 2 weeks ago or 1 month ago, and then the students try to maybe to summarize something, and then he or she found this new note here, and then drag and drop here to support.
Maybe let me just interrupt a little bit. What Eddy is showing you now will be something that we will be doing in this class. So you can look at it from this perspective. We haven't done that much yet, but this is people are telling you assess knowledge building. People said, oh, it's all scattered. Last week Mr. Ho said, oh, we don't have a problem. We don't know what the problem is. So we are moving towards this. So these are Form 3. Are they Form 3 students doing this?
Yes,
okay,
grade 9.
Form 3 students doing this. We are not MEDD year 1, year 2. So later on you will do these kinds of things. We will also find the problem and the theme of discussion, and then these are the reference notes. So you may also make sure you try the use of reference notes, and then anyway, I will give you.
Right now, so I told the students that they are going to write something like this in the very beginning of the lesson in September. This is the assessment. What does that imply? Which Dr. J has mentioned that, okay, you have to produce these blue little things from time to time. Okay, you have to revisit, refine, every week, whatever. Then when you come up to this stage, then you have something to pick. Okay? If no one writes anything in the database, at the end of the day, you have nothing to select. What you can type is only these things, the words. But that is not knowledge building. That is your own understanding. Okay, but if you look at this example, yes, of course you can see the student's own understanding of what is happening in the database. But as well, he referenced his classmates' ideas or contributions. But of course, how can he get this? By reading the notes that produced or posted by his classmates in the last 1 month or 2 months. If you go back the second slide, continuous and collaborative. So you have to work regularly, post something, read something. Okay, then at the end of the day, when you do the assignment, then you have something to work. It's everyone's job, not only the good ones, everyone. So that handles diversity as well. Okay, and this is the interaction in a cognitive way. Okay. Okay. Right, and I also introduced some sort of assessment during the process, which I would like to share with you. Now, when you read a note posted by a classmate or even yourself, check the question. If there's a question there, okay, is that a good question? If a question talking about definition, does that mean a poor question? Okay, a question asking for reason, is that a good question? You really have to rethink about what's meant by a good question in a community. In a community. Yes.
Sorry, the last slide you said was used for evaluation, the last one. How do you use that last slide for evaluation? How would you use that for evaluation?
Oh, yeah. I will mention about in the at the end of my presentation.
Right.
And then, if there's no, or if the note contains no question, just answers, okay, in the student's term, answers, or responses, which contain questions and answers. Okay, how would you define a good response? If we put it under knowledge building, what would be a good response? Does that mean a lengthy response is a good response, or a response with a lot of keywords, vocabulary? Would that be a good response? We have to rethink about all these things under the notion of knowledge building. Okay, a summary note. We define a good summary note, a conclusion. Okay. Well, many of you may pick writing a summary note. But how would that be a good one under knowledge building? But very often, a summary note signifies the end. So if everyone thinks that this is the case, then if everyone put a summary note, then no further discussion could happen in the database. Okay, so we have to rethink about this. So I ask you to think about this, because when you keep thinking about these questions, you will be very careful when you type and when you respond to other people's ideas. Okay, right, and then stage 4, consolidation. Now, after 2 months, 3 months of discussion, or 3 weeks of discussion, okay, If you have a good class, you may have hundreds of notes. Okay? Don't talk about the teacher. The student won't have time to read them. So we have to think of something, a mechanism, to make them read. Or, in our terms, the scaffold. Okay, how do we scaffold the students to work on all these ideas embedded in the database? Okay, we use portfolio, an electronic one. Okay, and then of course we also introduce another scaffold, the knowledge building principle, which you will have time to work on that. But I introduce these high sounding principles to students, grade 9, grade 12. Of course, in a simpler version which they can comprehend. This is one example. So I give 4 or 5 principles to the students, and then I have some descriptions here. I will give you this when I finish the presentation. That is your classwork. You have this rubric or explanation of principles. Go and read the database that you have created. Can you find any cluster or any node which represents one or more principles? If yes, lucky you. You are in good progress. If not, how can you make it happen? From today all the way when you do the assignment. So this is knowledge building as well. Okay, so by working with the database, you will be able to understand these principles. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. Of course, you have the professor here, the academic here to help to guide you as well. Right now, in the strong portfolio is like this. Still, we have a view. And then assessment, that way here, a learning portfolio. When you click into the view, okay, each student will have a personal view, just like the physical folder the student has in the classroom. So they have a personal view. Now what will they do? They will select the relevant notes and put in their own view. Just like in classroom, they pick their worksheet, good work, and they collect it in the shoebox. Okay? And then they read all those stuff in the shoebox or in their personal view, and they will work something more challenging in the next level. Now, for example, in this student's personal view, so he or she has selected these clusters of notes. And then he put part A portfolio, note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4, note 5. And then he has selected, okay, these are the good notes, okay, from this pool. It's just like you have a shoe box and you pick the very good one. Just picking is not enough. Here's the instruction. After 2 months of discussion, so the student has to select the best cluster of notes. And then after picking, they have to explain why this is good. This is the most important part. You have to explain why this is good. Okay? Right, okay. Here, I also ask them to organize the content of the note to help the reader to understand your work. So if you are going to do this for your assignment, make sure you have to organize the things well to help the reader. And for example, you give a theme of the selected note. You state which principles that can be recognized. Okay, when you have a cluster of notes, identify the theme Okay, this is summary already. This is the rise about. From a cluster of 10 nodes, okay, what is the topic about? Or what is the beauty of this cluster? Okay, make it into a theme or a title. Then you write. Okay, when you interpret what is meant by good, okay, we have the same measurement. It's the knowledge building principle. Otherwise, it will be quite diverse. You have your own understanding of good and his own understanding of good things. But we use the knowledge building principle. Okay. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is a portfolio explanation. So the student has selected this what Dr. Chen mentioned is a reference note. So he pulled a note into here and he explains. You see the scaffold there, progressive problem solving, which is one of the principles. And then here you have level of explanation. This is another scaffold. I asked the students to grade what is the level of explanation of his or her student's note. And then I have this level of inquiry, level of questions here, the scaffold, this thinking prompt. So this is how you can help the students to work on this such a challenging task. This is from grade 9.
It's a bit unbelievable that grade 9 students in Hong Kong will write like this.
So, of course, behind this, we have to do lots of things systematically. Okay, so this is another example showing you the student grade. This is level 3 or level 4. Of course, definitely you can tell that the teachers must have done something similar in the classroom. Otherwise, they cannot understand the marking scheme. Okay, so that will be what you ask the assessment. Okay, they read. Now, so you say so. They may not be able to read all the views, which is quite impossible. Just like asking a student to study a whole textbook for exam, which is not possible these days. But let them pick some view that or a topic they are interested. Okay, and then you work deeply in this particular view. Okay,
so I just read out that this cluster is very good using questions to support or generate questions. For example, Eric, whatever. First, he stated the problem and asked for reasons. So there's a little dot there so we will have to help you learn how to use the reference system before in this. Was asking some questions. So that's how kids are talking about. I think this is very good discussion because they're using questions to generate a discussion. But they don't talk like blankly.
Yeah, so this shows you that it's not judging it's evaluating the quality of the note in relation to the whole community. For example, here he said he was asking some relevant questions in order to investigate why something happened. So relevant is in relation to the whole cluster, not just the question itself. Okay, you can pose any good question. Okay, but that's referring to what I've mentioned earlier. What do you mean by good question? Here gives you some idea. You have to in context. Okay, that gives you another example of a student reinterpreting the principle. So with the reference note, I will say that is an evidence. Okay, right. Now, so which I have shared with you just now. In the very beginning, something happened in the classroom. They asking questions, sharing. They draw mind map from individual mind map, group mind map. They teach each other through online interaction. So this is a group work, what we say, to explore ideas. Interdependent, which is very important. No matter how smart you are, if you only work on your own, it is impossible. Without everyone's contribution, you cannot have this. The portfolio just now you have seen. Nothing to do with your language skills. Of course, if you are good in language, you can elaborate your ideas in a much better way, but that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is the community. You are willing to share, you are willing to comment, and you refine your own understanding. Okay, so time and space. From classroom, you go to online. Okay, and from one view, you have a rise above view, and then you have your personal view. Learning time in the classroom, after school. Right. You can tell during the whole discussion process or their work on the database, if they really alert of what I have shared with them, the knowledge building principle, they have to reflect on their own understanding, because people will comment on your notes, and then you read and then you think again. With the teacher's input in terms of teaching and the textbook or reference materials that you come across, you will reflect again on your own writing. Maybe a note which you have posted 2 weeks ago. Now you think that is a naive. Okay. And then you also check your classmates' progress. But it's not one particular student. It's the whole community, the note in the database. Okay, not one single person. Now, I find out that in my experience, it is not difficult or surprising to find a note which produced by a very quiet student. Okay, not too many, usually this sort of students, but they type a few, but very good ones. Okay, the chatterbox in the classroom, yes, they produce lots of notes, but you can condense them into 2 or 3 sentences. Because some of them are very smart, because we have quantitative assessment. I check how many notes you produce every week, so they know the trick. They open a note, they say, agree, then close, 1 note count. So that's why we introduce the portfolio, which is more qualitative type of assessment, taking the understanding. Right, so hopefully you can see the ideas now is put in the box, and the box, which means the note, is the thing that you work on. It becomes an object. The thing here now becomes an object you can play with. Okay, you can revisit. Okay, the thing your ideas which you have posted 2 weeks ago, you can revisit, just like a toy. Okay, my son plays a toy car for 2 weeks, then get bored, put away, and then half a year later, revisit and play with it again in a different way. So that generic skills these days, we talk about this. No matter it's an international school or local school, we talk about generic skills in learning. Communication skills. You have to be humble. You should not be too aggressive when you write notes in the database. So you are stupid. Your look is very poor. No point, empty. So we have to teach the students, okay, the certain type of manner, okay, in this type of online learning, so social learning. Right, the portfolio, I would say, is a communal, it contains communal knowledge, or the database, or all the portfolios comes from the students. They do not belong to any student. It's actually the contribution of the whole group. So that is a communal knowledge. Of course, individual input is very crucial. So, difficulties. Students reluctant to ask questions, reluctant to respond, features and tricks. Start with this, which I've mentioned. Ask you to talk about practice,
Can I
safety.
go back to the trick, like, so go back, oh, I see. Ask students, so, because I also have this problem, sometimes they have, no.
You have seen this slide before?
Yeah, yeah.
Stage 1. This is actually to handle the challenge. KF activity, full school view, introduce yourself, teacher set questions, assessment. You have to have the assessment element in the whole learning process. You have seen something similar before? Right. Knowledge forum versus other chat rooms. E-class, they have chat rooms, whatever. But KF, you have the theoretical support, which is the knowledge building. You even have the knowledge building principle. You have those yellow boxes. Just now I mentioned is writing point. It's actually the metacognitive form. You think about it. Oh, what's the level? What is the new theory? Okay, what things I don't understand, I need to explain. So these are metacognitive forms. Better thinking and understanding. Right, no need to be an IT expert. Hardworking and reading. The teacher and the students, this is new, definitely. Okay, a very new way of handling learning. The most difficult part is not the technology, to be honest. You have guidelines, okay? But the most difficult part is the design, the instructional design. How will you change and bring the students to experience this change? So first of all, you have to change in the way of looking at learning. That's why you need to do MS. Right, so a few more words. So we'll try to link it back to this course. You are doing knowledge building. You have to do it every time you meet, in the classroom and online. If you look at the portfolio just now, if you don't contribute, if you don't put any notes, how can you do a portfolio at the end? Everyone will fail. For sure, no matter how good, how hardworking you are, that is not communal learning. You're just learning on your own. So you must have enrolled the wrong course. So I think this is a good time. So if you want to get more from this module, you have to work with the academics as well as with the classmates as well. It is very difficult and busy for teachers. So online is the solution. Okay, make it a regular, make it a habit. Once a week, okay, you type, you write a good note. Okay, so of course you think about when you write, when you assess or evaluate people's notes, think about what will be the criteria you use to judge, to evaluate. Similarly, academics will use the same principle to give you either an A or an F. They do fail people, but not very often. Right, so that's all for my sharing. So see whether you have any questions to ask before I leave to look after my children for examination.